We are here today to give you 4 tips on how to sell 3 homes in the next 30 days. Mitzi, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mitzi Dela Cruz. I am a full-time realtor, been full-time in real estate now for going on 8 years. Just so super excited to be in an industry where I'm able to feel like Santa Claus every day. And I've been with eXp Realty now for about 3 years, a little over 3 years. And it has by far been the best thing that I've ever done in my career. What an awesome opportunity. And I'm just really glad to be sharing my tip with you guys today.
Awesome. And I'm Kelly Zimmerman. I've been selling real estate for about a little over 5 years now, been with eXp for 2. And I'm in a little farm town in California called Wheatland, and sold 41 homes last year. That was my best year yet. And I got that Icon Award that I'm truly proud of. And I love helping people. I love marketing, and I can't believe that I get to go look at homes for a living. So that's a little bit about me.
I'm Marguerite Crispillo, and I am the old timer here. I've been in real estate 27 years, and I could not be more blessed than to get to work with these 3 incredible Icon ladies, each of them in their own right. I've also been an Icon a few times here at eXp. I was an independent broker for 22 years and owned my own brokerage along with my husband, Joe, locally here in the Lincoln area. And 3.5 years ago, decided to make the leap to eXp. And what I love most, I think, is the Icon program. The ability to allow us as agents to not only reach higher levels and have goals for ourselves, but to contribute back to the culture of the community and the education. And so I'm thrilled to be here today to talk about some tips. And next up is our own Taylor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor Zapata. I am 25. I'm also an agent in Wheatland, very small town. I cover a lot of Yuba Sutter and Placer counties. I sold 35 homes in my 2nd year of real estate, and I'm also an Icon agent. I am very fortunate to be in this group of ladies because there is so much mentoring and so much education and knowledge that I can snag left and right. So I take advantage of it, and I really, truly use it to grow my business.
And I want to also mention that Taylor won the Rising Star Award for California. She was recognized by our California Association of Realtors. So we're really proud of you for that, Taylor.
Thank you.
So I'm really excited to share topic 1 with you guys. Topic 1 covers video and how important it is to use in your real estate business. Now, one thing I just want to mention, we're going to cover four pointers, 4 topics for you today. As realtors, there's quite a few things that you can do to grow your business. It's going to be really important for you to find the 3 that are the most beneficial for your business and focus on those so you're not doing a little bit of everything and really feeling stretched thin. But I'll tell you, I feel like video is one of those things you just cannot not do. You just can't. A few benefits of video are that, number 1, you can be way more effective with your time by communicating one-to-many. You have the opportunity to allow people to know you, like you, trust you before you ever even step foot in their door or they ever step foot in your door. You can also create consistency in that you have this outline of a message that you're delivering that is consistent across the board, and you can update your videos as things change. But you really have an opportunity to not only connect to your community, if you wanted to do like a community vlog like I do, and I'll get into that in a minute. You can create bomb videos so that as you're achieving different points in the real estate process with your buyers and sellers, you have an automated video that goes out to them that tells them what happens next, so they feel that personal connection, even though it's pre-recorded. I have a birthday video that I made with the lender that I partner with 90% of the time. And so every time one of our clients has a birthday, the birthday video automatically goes out. And so our clients feel like that video was made just for them. So that's been really powerful. What's that?
I got that video.
Oh yeah, you did. Well, it was just for you, Kel. But it's just one of those things that we're in a day and age where, historically you could do things like blogging to connect with your potential clients, your audience, and things like that. And that still is very beneficial for some if used properly. But I feel like a lot more people are watching video than are reading necessarily blog posts and articles and things like that. So it's just a very unique opportunity to allow people to know you, like you, trust you, and you're going to be amazed at the amount of people that are going to come say hello to you at the grocery store and the way that you're going to be perceived within your community when used properly.
And I actually did a live video 2 days ago. I went through a model home and just kind of showed how cutely it was decorated, had a bunch of engagement, and I actually talked about some of the incentives that the builder had, and I got a private message on Facebook, and I'm going to go show somebody that I've never met before that saw that live video. We're going to go look at model homes together. So that's something that you can start implementing right away and maybe even pick up business sooner rather than later.
So Mitzi, could you tell us a little bit about your Lincoln Live? Because I think that that's really become a huge cornerstone for what you do and how you've done it to really build and become the mini mayor, so to speak, of your community.
So Lincoln Live was something that I started, it's been going on 3 years. And so I've been extremely consistent. It's a weekly Facebook show that I have where I will interview local business owners, 501c3 nonprofits, and community leaders, and just anybody with a story to share. I'll also use local events, topics, things like that, just to kind of fill in on my Facebook page in between the videos that I'm producing once a week, where it really gives everybody a collective audience. And one of the things that's been really beneficial is that when I was getting started 3 years ago, I really didn't mean to, I didn't intend for this to be a weekly thing. It was kind of, I was kind of trying to make something right that that I had, dropped the ball on, so to speak, and I'll kind of explain that in a second. But what I learned in just kind of going live and just not worrying about, how's my hair, how's my makeup, am I saying too much, am I completely on point, where's the angle of the camera, things like that. I just went for it, and all of those things evolved as a result. But so to kind of back up, the way that Lincoln Live even came about was that when I was early in my career, I had started a blog, and I was talking about these houses I was holding open, local school districts, things like that. And I could see how many views I was getting on my blog, how many people were actually opening it up and reading it and things like that. And I wasn't getting a ton of eyeball traffic, and I knew it took time to build, but I actually had stopped at a lemonade stand as I was driving. There was a little boy at a lemonade stand, and I'm always all about supporting the kids. So pulled over, bought some lemonade, and I asked the little boy, what prompted you to do this lemonade stand? And it was the sweetest thing. He said, my mommy and daddy have these friends, and their little boy was just diagnosed with cancer. So here's this 4-year-old little boy who is trying to raise money, 35 cents at a time for this family. And my heart just went out to him, and what a sweet thing to do. So I actually wrote a blog post about this little boy, and it was amazing. I woke up the next day, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people had read my blog post and shared my blog post. And that's when I really started to understand the power of story, and how that really speaks to people and allows people to connect, people that think like you and that, have the same values. So, when I got busy in real estate, that really went by the wayside. It was very time consuming, an hour and a half for the article, hour and a half of editing, going back and forth, including pictures, things like that. And then right when I'd get it perfect, then I would publish it. But it took a lot of time. So I quit blogging, and then I had decided I wanted to take it back up. And so I took a gal out to lunch, and we sat down and chatted for 3 hours and took copious amounts of notes and told her, hey, I'll have your article ready for you in about a week. And a week went by and my phone was ringing and real estate was busy. And then a month went by and 2 months, and I really felt like I had dropped the ball. The information that she'd shared with me was very time sensitive. So by the time I had reached back out to her, I said, Chris, I'm so sorry. I know that I dropped the ball. I know that the information that we had discussed is no longer relevant. So I really would like for you to be able to give the community an update as far as what you guys are doing. There's a big project of completely overhauling our community park that's been a cornerstone of Lincoln for over 100 years. So I said, would you be willing to do something like that with me, and we'll just go live. And then that way the message is out in real time. And so thank God she said yes, because I feel like if she hadn't have said yes, and if I would have had time to overthink and worry about all those details, then, Lincoln Live would have maybe never even came to fruition. So I noticed that, within the matter of a couple hours, there were so many people that had watched live, that had shared our video for no other reason but that they were totally in support of what the Friends of McBean Park were doing, and what this gal, Chris Wyatt, who's a cornerstone of our community as well, had done with her time. So it just became this powerful movement. And then I know you and I had discussed it, Marguerite, and you said, hey, you need to do this and you need to be consistent, make it a weekly thing. And what I've noticed is I see a lot of other realtors, industry professionals that are doing things that are similar. In fact, one of our assemblymen recently started his own version of Lincoln Live, covering Placer County. So it's so awesome. I feel like the connections that I've made have just been invaluable. And actually last year, I was totally surprised and honored to be named Businesswoman of the Year in Lincoln. And I know that a lot of that success has really been attributed to the connections that I've made through Lincoln Live. So it's awesome.
Well, and from the outside looking in, I live in Lincoln as well. And I've just been so proud of what you have done with that show, because, I know in the beginning it was a little bit, obviously hokey and wobbly and all different kinds of stuff going on, right? Lots of technical errors, and you've just really tweaked it and fine-tuned it and made it what it is today. But what I love more than anything is that you just did it, right? Because I think a huge issue with video is that we all want to overthink it. And at the end of the day, nothing gets done. And your shows have been, you're getting thousands of views now on your shows on a weekly basis. And you have a waiting list, don't you, of people who want to be on the show now?
I do. And so sometimes it's hard to keep up. So our new challenge has been getting all of the requests into one location. So I'll get requests through Facebook. I'll get, phone calls here at the office. I'll get messages, text messages, emails, all of those things. And so just corralling all of those requests into one place has really been the challenge. But what an awesome way too to connect to the community. And I'll tell you, I've actually started doing annual client or guest appreciation parties. So they're big networking opportunities, and I'll hold them at a local winery, and then I'll partner with some of either the attendees, or my lender partner has been great about helping me to sponsor those. So they don't cost very much at all. And one thing that I just wanted to mention as well is, from the outside looking in, I think a lot of people think I spend quite a bit of time preparing and things like that, and that's just not the case. I mean, I have a quick conversation with my guest. I tell them the general flow. It's very conversational, and at the end of the day, a lot of the front end setup with scheduling and things like that is handled by my assistant. So,
have you been able to quantify or determine how you have monetized that? Like, do you have people that you've been that you have directly helped in real estate as a result of them seeing you on Lincoln Live?
Absolutely. So there's a couple things in regards to that. Number one, I always ask people, who can I thank for connecting you to me? And one of the number one things I hear is, I just see you all over the place. You're all over Facebook, you're all over the community, so that's, been something that I hear so often that I can't even necessarily say it's just Lincoln Live. It might be Lincoln Live, and then they see my sign at a local sponsorship of at the ball field, or they'll see my sponsorship of the local high school basketball team or whatnot. So it's just it's tough to really quantify, but it's brand awareness, really.
Hello, everyone. Our tip number 2 is follow up on old leads. Super easy when things are moving along fast in real estate to kind of forget about some of those folks that weren't quite ready to purchase, and you kind of put them on the back burner. So one thing to think about when you are trying to figure out how to get some people in your pipeline is following up on old leads. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a conversation where you're directly asking them if they're ready to buy or sell. Following up with them, it can be something that has nothing to do with real estate. Mitzi talked about her birthday announcements. I mean, that's one way of staying top of mind, but also through social media. I really keep up with my clients by liking their posts and engaging with them on social media and just kind of keeping in touch with them. Recently was able to follow a bathroom remodel that one of my clients did on Facebook, and I would text them when they posted pictures online, and they actually told me that they were fixing it up to list it. And these were folks that I had tried to sell their home a few years back, and just the timing ended up being wrong. So because I stayed on top of them with Facebook and what they were doing, I'm actually going to be listing their home here in a few weeks. So just, staying top of mind with your old leads and following up with them and just checking in with them. Mitzi, do you always friend request your leads?
I do, and I'll be strategic about it. I won't, just have a quick conversation where there's really no connection, and then bam, send them a friend request if it feels awkward. I just kind of trust my gut. But Kel, so tell us, how do you make sure that nobody slips through the cracks? Like, where do all these leads go, and then how do you remember to follow up with them?
Yeah, so I rely on my database, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about databases here in a minute, but I have reminders that let me know if I need to follow up with them in 1 month or 3 months. And I also have a system where I label them as hot, warm, or cold. And so it's really easy for me just to pop in my database and click hot leads, warm leads, and see a list with the phone numbers. So.
I set reminders as well. So if I get off the phone with somebody and they say they're not ready, maybe in 2 months, I look right then and there and I put it in my calendar because I know I'll forget. So I just write it then there. And then all of a sudden it'll be like a Tuesday, like, hey, call so-and-so. And then I call and, see how they're doing.
And Taylor, you taught me a tip a while back about how you store your contacts in your phone with if they're a buyer or a seller and what area they're looking in.
Yes, I do. I'll put it under the company. So when you search, I can just search in my contacts and I can search buyer or seller or Zillow or KV Core or any of those. And it'll drop all those down because I'm horrible with names. You tell me what house or what kind of dog you have, I got you. I'm not going to remember your name. I don't know why, I'm just horrible. So I can search. I'll remember, I know I talked to somebody that wanted something. And if you put it in the company, you can search your iPhone contacts and it will pop up.
So
and I have to tell you that has been one of the most brilliant tips I ever learned from her, is because too, when somebody calls and you've just either, you don't recognize the number, which we don't recognize numbers anymore, or it just says, Bob Smith. When it pops up and it says Bob Smith Zillow lead in Colfax, you're like, oh yeah, I remember when they call you. It's so awesome. And I do it with real estate agents. I do it with anybody. Like, for example, you ladies are all in my EXP organization. And so it will come up and say, Taylor sponsored by Kelly. So I know who your sponsor is and I know who, your name is. And I started also, if I'm in your presence, when I add your phone number, I always take your picture.
Ah, that's cute.
Because now then your face pops up, and like I struggle with names as well, Taylor, but I'll remember your face, right?
Yeah.
So then it'll pop up. I'll be like, oh yeah, you know. So as many details as you can add to your phone now, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Phones
And
make it-
sometimes you'll see a really cool listing that's in a, you know, specific city. And when you can search Wheatland buyer in your phone and all those contacts come up that we're looking for a house to buy in that specific city, that really helps too when you see something good in the MLS and you want to try to connect that with a buyer.
I'll tell you what, you guys, that tip alone was worth the recording today.
Absolutely. And this is what I'll do. If excuse me, if I'm like in the MLS, I may go through old searches that I've created for people, and then I'll pull up their portal and I'll just select one house that maybe has something that they've mentioned that they're interested in, like, I don't know, brick pillars in the front. And so I'll just grab that one listing and I'll send it to them. And the email's quick and easy. Just, hey, so-and-so saw this and thought of you, ... What do you think? That's it.
I had somebody do that to me today that I hadn't talked to in months. And she sent me a little Frenchie statue in Pier 1 and she said, thought of you today. I was like,
and
oh,
how'd that make you feel?
I liked it. Yeah. It's cool.
So I go through my database a lot too, and I have people tagged like you do. And my goal every day is to make 20 outbound calls, and I have to find 20 people to call. So I have to go through my database, and I'll start with the hot leads, move to the warm, to the cold. Then I'll even go to dead leads and call up dead leads, or, you know, call people from years ago. So.
Yeah. And a cool thing that happened just with COVID-19 and following up and keeping up with what my clients are doing, the birthday parades, you know, like being able to drive in front of your client's house on their kid's birthday and honk your horn and act crazy. I mean, that's just another way. So, you know, really using social media to, you know, just to keep up with what your clients and your leads are doing and making sure that, you know, you're engaged and, you know, being top of mind. So.
Well, and I love that. So I know, Cal, that's one of the things you do is you'll send friend requests to your prospects and things like that. And I think that anyone who follows you on social media cannot help but just to fall in love with you because you're just so awesome. And that's how we became friends, actually. So social media. So the fact that you do that is so awesome because, again, everything goes back to the very fundamental piece of all of this is people work with people they know, like, and trust. And that's a wonderful way to get people, allow people to know you, like you, trust you.
Yes.
I
And
was taught from a wise woman that fortune is in the follow-up.
yes.
So
Is that wise woman in this panel?
yeah. So I stick to it and I do my best with follow-up as well.
Another follow-up tip that maybe some of you forgot about, and I know we had this conversation on a Zoom call earlier this week, was, you know, following up with past clients that maybe never left you a review. That's another good way to check in. If you're going through your reviews and you, you know, are wanting to kind of like build up that review, you know, in whatever platform you're using, and maybe just reaching out to somebody, even if it's been 2-3 years, and just checking in with them and asking them for a review. I mean, that's another form of follow-up. So
Honestly, the most important part is don't get caught up in exactly what to do. Like, we can get paralysis of the analysis, right? You come up with a million ways to analyze what you should do. Just like Mitzi mentioned earlier about her Lincoln Live, she could have spent months prepping, make sure she has the perfect equipment, you know, making sure that, you know, she has a list and all. I mean, you could go on and on and on, or you could just do it. And what I find is that, you know, a big part of this topic today was to get 3 transactions in the next 30 days, right? And in order to do that, you have to do the work.
yeah.
You know, you can't just sit back and wait for them to show up on your doorstep, although we would all love that, would be amazing. But I promise you, if you take any of the tips that you get today and you just implement one and you do it consistently, you cannot fail. You truly cannot fail.
Absolutely.
So my tip 3, or our tip 3 for everyone, is online leads. I know everyone has good taste and bad taste with online leads, but they have been very successful for me. And I know Marguerite has jumped into some of them that I've been into. The best part is just answering your phone. Like, you're going to get whatever you pay for, whatever company you use for your leads. If you don't call those people and you don't call them back, they're not going to go anywhere for you. So as soon as my phone rings, I answer it. I don't care if I'm in the middle of dinner or this, that, and the other thing. And that has been a huge help for me, because a lot of people say, oh my God, you actually answered. It's Sunday, or, Monday evening you answered. And I may not always be available to go look at the house then or send the email, but I will always make that first connection and say, hey, this is who I am. I'm sorry. I'm a mom. I'm in the middle of dinner. I'll call you back. But they do appreciate that I don't always just send a voicemail, and people hear a real life person. And I think they really appreciate that. So that's why my online leads, that is my best tip for my online leads. I know a lot of people are on a team, so they'll branch them out to, the agents around them, and that is super helpful. And I do the same thing. I will, a couple girls in our group, I'll get a lead and say, hey, I am not available to help you that day, but I know someone who is, and people really appreciate that. The only thing is, a lot of people that don't like leads, they say they never work for me, and I ask, like, well, did you call? Yeah, once. Well, we'll call again. Text, send an email. And that has been my most successful with my online leads. What about you guys?
So I wanted to point out a couple things. The main platform that you're using is Zillow, correct?
Yes, I do.
Do you have other platforms you're utilizing as well?
I do use our KV Core, Making It Rain.
And so a couple things to keep in mind. I know a lesson that I learned, and I'm not sure if one of you guys taught me this or not, is when it comes to Zillow, I know that many are spending a lot of money. And so you do want to be very careful of how much you spend and making sure that the return on your investment is a valid amount. But a little tip that I learned is that if you get into a cheaper area, you reach out to maybe a zip code that's on the perimeter of where you actually work in the beginning. For example, I live in the Lincoln area, and I actually paid for Zillow leads in the Colfax Cool area, which is about 30 minutes from me. And within the first week, I got a buyer who bought a home, listed and sold their home, and referred me to somebody who bought a home. So I quickly got the return on my investment. And the funny thing is, I was spending $70 a month on those Zillow leads. Yeah. So obviously, as you get better and better at it, and you get more return on your investment, you can, dig into some other areas. But getting into any Zillow zip code can actually help you become now a premier agent, which means your own listings are highlighted, and you can also work on getting your reviews up and a number of other things. So I know that people have a love-hate relationship with Zillow, but it can work for you if you are paying attention to the tips and tricks. And I learned some of those from Taylor. So thank you, Taylor.
Yes.
Do you guys think that it's the contact method that works the best is a telephone call, or do you text, or what is it the voice to voice connection that works?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I'm actually glad that you asked that, Kelly, because that was, my first year in real estate. I sold 3 whole houses, and anyway, 2 of those were from Zillow, and that was, what I did as well. So living in Lincoln, Wheatland is about 15 minutes from where I live. And back then, Wheatland was extremely cheap to buy into. And so I bought into that zip code just to have the phone ringing in some capacity, and was able to sell 2 of the 3 houses from that. But I feel like you really, number one, you have to keep in mind that sometimes the sale doesn't happen until the 8th to 12th touch. So you need to continue to follow up and have a plan for that. So maybe the phone call, they don't answer. So maybe you don't leave a message the first time, you text them, and then you wait, a day or 2, and then you call again, and email. So mix up your communication, and then figure out how your client communicates.
Yes, totally. Something else that I've found is very helpful is pairing that lead with a lender that has a killer follow-up, because you guys can kind of tag team it, and all of a sudden my lender will call me and be like, hey, you remember so-and-so from two months ago. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, they're ready. Let's go. And then it really helps. So having a lender that has is just as much follow-up as you do is super helpful, because you don't want to hand that sweet little egg over and then all of a sudden it's done. So I truly appreciate my lenders that have killer follow-up, because it just helps keep it moving.
Yeah. Awesome. And the KV Core, the Make It Rain, is that, and now how are those leads? How do they come to you? Is that like by sharing your links through KV Core, or?
Making It Rain, no. So I don't even see them. I just get a little notification that I have a new KV Core lead. I do not require, you have the option to require a phone number or an email. I don't require a phone number, and I still get a ton of numbers. And so I just share them. You can do it right in KV Core. You can just share with a lender and it'll go right over to a lender, and I just pick up the phone and call them. And you can put in KV Core, it tells you hot, cold, has an agent, doesn't have an agent, all those options that you want right inside of there as well.
Awesome.
Now, Taylor, you also do quite a bit with social media and doing, I know that you have Instagram, Insta Stories, Facebook. How has that worked for you?
I think it's helped me a lot. I had one client that I helped buy a house a couple of months ago, and she said, I just see you're doing so well online. And I'm sure she's not scrolling through the MLS seeing how many houses I've sold. Nobody does that. So I think me posting my updates on my story and on my page really helps, because the people that are online are going to be the ones that see that. And that's, my age group, all my friends are finally old enough to buy houses. So,
mine are all now retiring and selling houses. So.
That's a good team. No, I've had quite a few clients say like, oh my God, you got my offer accepted. Are you going to post it on your Instagram? I'm like, yes, I am. Let's go. So I think a lot of people really enjoy seeing what I have going on and, keeping it moving.
Awesome. Mitzi, do you do any online leads now?
So it's crazy. My KV Core has been going nuts recently. And so I also just bought into ushead.com. So we're just trying that out. It's month to month. One tip I would have for you guys, just pay attention to any online lead sources that are requiring long contracts. Mm-hmm. So, it's totally up to you, how much time you're willing to invest. But just keep in mind, you might be slow today. If you're anticipating business really picking up within the next month or two, just based on your pipeline, and you're not going to be able to answer your phone quickly, then maybe you don't want to commit to a 6-month contract, or maybe that might make you feel a little uncomfortable on the front end. So that's really what I look for now, is I don't want to commit to anything because I don't necessarily always have the time to call right away. Because it's that balancing act, right? You don't want to be in the middle of a showing and your client's, sharing something really heartfelt with you, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's, whoever it is, and you've got to answer because it's an incoming lead, and then now they don't feel like you're really fully engaged. So anyway, so that's kind of what I've done is, I'll kind of play around with different platforms here and there, but I really rely very heavily on social media and just past client follow-up, and really just my sphere of influence that I've created with those things here in my community.
And one thing that I strongly recommend, regardless of what platform you're generating business and leads from, is the importance of tracking those numbers and knowing what is really working. If you're spending lots of money on Zillow, you don't know if you ever closed a deal from it or not, then maybe you need to reevaluate that, right? If you're spending money on all these different lead platforms, really track and ask where your business comes from. Because what I find in most of the classes I've taught, and many times when I've asked people, I'll say, hey, where have your last 5 transactions come from? And without fail, most of the time, at least 90%, 80 or 90% of that business came as a result from a past client, personal friend, or referral, somebody that they know from networking, and did not come as a result from advertising. So it's not always the case, but many times that is the case. So make sure you're really tracking where your transactions, where your leads are coming from, to make sure that the money that you're spending is worth it. Because real estate agents are the biggest suckers for any kind of advertising sales, right? They'll just say, hey, if you get one deal from it, it paid for it. Next thing you know, you've spent, $20,000 on park benches. So I really encourage you to make sure that you're actually tracking where your clients are coming from. And I'm happy to share tracking forms or anything like that that you may need. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is my favorite topic of all, which is database and the value, as Taylor said earlier, of following up on the people. I can tell you that I've been in business 27 years and I have a very strong database, and I hear the question all the time, what database do I use? And I'll tell you, it's the one that you'll actually use. It doesn't matter. I happen to use one called All Clients. I know there's Top Producer, there's Wise Agent, there's Lion Desk, there's KV Core, there's a million of them out there. I know people who've actually done a ton of business off little index cards, right? It doesn't really matter what your database is. What is most important, I will tell you, however, is I don't recommend you use any kind of company-sponsored database, because as we all love the brokerage we work with, and I love eXp, not planning on going anywhere, you never know what the company may do to change up a database or what may happen with that program. So I always want to be in control of my data because it's the most valuable thing that I own is my database. So what does that mean? Well, I frequently tell the story of one of my favorite people on the planet named Linda Buckmaster. And Linda Buckmaster, I sold a $50,000 HUD home to in 1997. Since then, Linda referred 8 people who have referred people who've referred people who've referred people who've referred people to the tune of 8 levels deep, 65 referrals, and over $300,000 in commissions. So there's an incredible amount of fortune and money in following up with the people. But you've heard some great tips today on ways to follow up. Taylor suggested ways in her phone. Kelly talked about ways in her database that she set up. Mitzi talked about doing follow-up with video and a lot of types of things like that. And it's so important that you create a program where you can track that stuff. The only way Mitzi, I promise you, she's super smart, but remembers all those birthdays is because she has a pop-up in her database that says, hey, it's Kelly's birthday, right? I mean, we do have social media, and we have Facebook and things like that that really help us out these days. But how wonderful is it that you could go into your database and you could look up and say, hey, Taylor raises Frenchies, right? Or, I texted her the other night because I know her family raises cattle. And so I remembered that, right? And I was able to reach out to her and refer her to a couple of friends of mine who are looking to do that. So a lot of that information can be kept in a simple database. Now, I will also tell you that for the last 20 plus years, 27 years, I mail to my database almost every month. I'd love to say I do it every month. Sometimes I've gotten a little, like the last couple months, I got a little flaky. But for the most part, I've mailed to my database every single month for the last 27 years. And I mail a simple letter of the heart, a little story about me. You can go to margueritecresfellow.com and check out my blog and see examples of my letters. The letters are never about real estate. They're always about me and my life, because the truth is that people work with me because they've gotten to know me, like me, and trust me, as Mitzi said earlier. And that's who they really want to work with. They want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And so staying in contact with them, those letters have been really kind of the fabric of my life over the last 20 years. People have said, oh, I've watched your kids grow up, or I've seen, they remembered when my grandparents passed away, or they, all these different stories that have really, really helped me stay connected to people in a way that most don't. I can't tell you how many times I have met with a client who had bought or sold their house through somebody else previously, might have even had magnets and all kinds of stuff on the refrigerator from them, and they didn't even remember who sold them their house. And they said, oh yeah, I never heard from her again. She sold me my house 15 years ago. I've never heard from her, right? So that's really the value in staying connected with people and following up. I also personally love to do parties. I have big client events. I find ways of connecting with people. It doesn't require a lot of advertising and marketing. But what I'll tell you is that all the tips that you learned today for generating business and how to get business right now, every one of those can be doubled, tripled, quadrupled by simply making sure that you're staying in contact with them throughout the years. And so you can take all, if you're a newer agent and you're utilizing Zillow and Make It Rain and all these programs to generate business, that's fantastic. If you're utilizing Lincoln Live and you're utilizing video, but if you're not following up, then you've wasted the time. I know that just in watching these three amazing ladies over the last few years, I've watched Taylor go from 0 to icon in 2 years. And not only did she do that by lead generation and advertising, but she's also done such a great job at taking care of people that she's now getting referrals and repeat clients from those. Mitzi, I've seen her, she's now sold, you know, houses to people where she sold multiple homes to their families and their friends and has generated tons of referrals from that. And same thing with Kelly. I see you guys all the time talking about how somebody was a repeat client or a referral client. I know that Mitzi, you've had one particular client I think you've sold 4 or 5 homes to, right?
Yeah.
And so that is the value of not only the follow-up, but taking extraordinary care of your clients during the process. But if you do a great job and you never follow up with them, you've just lost that opportunity to be able to help them and all of their friends and family. So put any system in place. I say, I don't care what you mail to your database, just do something. Now, I do snail mail and I do email. And the reason why is because when I send snail mail and people have moved or their address has changed, I get the corrections back, right? If I send it email and their email has changed or bounced or things like that, I get that back. And that's a great excuse to call them. And so I'll give you one last example and then we'll wrap it up. I have a gal that I sold a house to, her and her husband, 20 years ago, and sold them a house. Then sadly they got divorced, so I ended up selling that house for them, and then they went and bought another. So I sold a couple more houses, right? She got divorced again and sold the house again. So I've now sold 4 houses for them. Then I got her mail returned. And I was so heartbroken. I'm like, oh my gosh, did she really go buy a house with somebody else? And I literally called her up and I said, hey, I'm just curious. You know, I've been your realtor for 20 years. I'm just wondering if I did something to offend you or upset you. She goes, oh no, I just have this new boyfriend and his sister just got a real estate license and we had to use her and it was a horrible experience. I'm never cheating on you again. I said, well, I'm sorry you had a horrible experience, but I'm glad you won't cheat on me again, right? And so utilize those opportunities to do the follow-up and to do the calls and just send something. In the beginning, I sent recipe cards. I've done things like newsletters. I've done, you know, all kinds of party stuff. I've done a million different things over the years, but one thing that is the most consistent and effective is my simple letter of the heart every single month.
We do birthday cards too. We do a birthday card in the mail. This is kind of one of the things that I've tried to be super consistent with. And we put in a $5 gift card for a cup of coffee. So,
and you know, I love that because I recently, this is a totally nothing to do with our conversation side note, discovered the Starbucks app. And I get lots and lots of Starbucks gift cards from people, from, you know, different people I work with. And I learned you can take all those cards and put them on the app and you don't have to lose all your Starbucks cards. So now I have like $70 on my Starbucks. But I know what some people have done is they've taken that and they've bought, like paid for a bunch where people can go by and use the code, right? I haven't done that, but I think that's cool.
So in summary, I have one action item that you can do now, and that is go to a local establishment and do a quick little video about your experience. Talk about the food, the drinks, the service that you received, whatever it is, and just let everybody know where they're located and tell everybody they got to come down and try the chef special today, whatever it is.
That's an awesome tip. Taylor?
My tip for you is just to pick up your phone and call at least 15 of your past leads today. We want to get you to that 3 in 30 days goal, and you have to start that by picking up your phone and calling your leads.
My big tip to start right away is just to engage with your past clients through social media, texting them, sending them birthday cards, just really reach out to those people and love on them and stay top of mind.
And my tip is going to be, I'm going to be a little bit harsh here. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, the actual phone, like listen to somebody's voice. And I'm saying this all with love. And when I need to hustle up and get business, like all of us as a group have made a commitment to try to actually put 12 in contracts. We're tracking our results right now. But my goal every day is I simply make it a goal to talk to 20 people a day. And it doesn't have to be 20 for you. It can be 10 or 5. But I write it down in my little journal book, my little fancy journal book. And my goal is to call 20 people a day. Start with people that like you. Start with your mom, whatever makes it work. But the fact is, pick up the phone and reach out, be proactive about your business and make 20 calls. Whether it's Taylor's great idea of calling 15 past clients or past leads. Kelly had talked about calling old leads and reaching out to people about maybe some remodel tips that they're doing in their home. And Mitzi, of course, said go out and highlight and video one of your local businesses because, number one, they need support right now in a big way. So reach out. That's all you have to do. It's easy to bury your head. What's not easy is to pick up the phone. So pick up the phone, people.